of fuel, rationing of food, potable water rationing, possibly rationing of electricity. We've seen that in Iraq a lot, depending on what's going on. Martial law is not a fun thing to be part of or live under, even if you're part of the occupying force, because it changes your life. Got some interesting questions that we'll go through one at a time here. It was pointed out to me that I talked about the evacuation timeline, but didn't talk about the timeline about when things would be happening. The original evacuation timeline was to be complete December 2010. Now, when you're moving literally tens of thousands of people, their spouses, their children, their pets, their household items, it's no small thing. It's a massive logistical problem. And one of the problems the government has is that this object, this 10th planet, has been acting like a comet, and it's coming up from the south, which is why we can't see it. It's coming up from the southern hemisphere, from the South Pole. It's been speeding up and slowing down. That's what a comet does. When it gets a tail and starts interacting electrically with our sun, it starts speeding up and slowing down. Well, they discovered they had to move up everything to be complete by 2009, by the end of 2009. It's not a specific date as in March the 1st or July the 10th or anything like that. It's not a specific date. It's a time frame. The time frame is 2010. That's the time frame. That's why 2012 is a distraction. Those of us who were involved with the preparations for Y2K, who were observing and watching what was going on, we noticed that almost nobody did anything until 1998. And then in 1999, when most people did something, whether it was buy a case of bottled water or whatever it might have been, or extensive preparations, that was done in 1999. The government knows this as well. So that's why they've pushed these dates on us of 2012 and then later in the century, because they want to distract people. There was a question about Weldon Springs possibly being a prison. That's one of the more frequently heard comments in the metropolitan St. Louis area. Is that what they built underground there as a prison? Well, I've been to many prisons professionally, interviewing people incarcerated in various prisons. And you don't build prisons underground. It's way too expensive. Underground construction is 2 to 4 times as expensive as above ground construction. You don't build prisons underground. And everything at Weldon Springs is underground, so I assure you it's not a prison. The Navy says, as far as ocean levels, the Navy says these oceans will come up over a period of about 30 days. Once these events get in motion, these water levels, these oceans, these tsunamis, tidal waves, will take place over a period of about 1 month. There was a question about the United Nations Biodiversity Project in the Ozarks and wildlands programs and different things. There's lots of agendas overlapping and seemingly at odds, but not necessarily at odds once you look at them more carefully. The powers that be want Africa, for example, to be a continent with almost no people, to pretty much become their playground where they can recreate and observe the animals in the wild. And it's rapidly headed that direction between disease and war. Any place where people can survive and live independently, they want to control it. That's, in my opinion, the reason behind all the attention being given to the Ozarks and these United Nations biodiversity projects that they got going on. There's been some questions. Of course, St. Louis is the headquarters for Monsanto, about Monsanto buying up and getting patents on seeds. I think that's what the question had to do with patents on GMO seeds. And they do. There has been farmers prosecuted, not prosecuted criminally, but sued civilly for inadvertently having genetically modified seeds blow into their fields, and they inadvertently have plants growing that they didn't buy the seeds for. It's a pretty crazy thing. Altitude. The Navy says that everything 100 feet sea level and below will be completely destroyed. The Navy says everything at 400 feet and below is at risk of being damaged and or destroyed. But there's more to this. There's how close you are to densely populated areas. Now, the Appalachian Mountains, for example, in North Carolina and so forth, would be highly desirable places to be if it wasn't for being so close to literally tens of million people who are going to be hungry and without potable water and without electricity. That's what makes those areas undesirable, even though they will be safe in terms of geology and rising ocean levels. There was a question about money and keeping money and so forth. If you're watching what's going on with the dollar, now this is March of 2008, you might be watching this video a year from now, 6 months from now. The American dollar is in severe crisis and is at risk of no longer being the reserve currency of choice for the countries and the major banks of the world. Dollars, if you call dollars money, you would be well advised to maybe be looking at something else for money to store up value for future use, possibly gold coins, possibly silver coins, to store up a lot of value in a compact area, compact space. Before, however, I would get gold coins or silver coins, I think I would look at other aspects of preparedness, and that's why I want to focus on the final part of this presentation is preparedness. On my radio show, I told my audience in the summer of '06 that I would no longer focus on the geopolitical matters. I'm with Republic Broadcasting, and they have a number of excellent talk show hosts that talk about the geopolitical matters nationally and internationally all the time quite well. That John Moore would focus on preparedness. So let's look at the stepping stones, the building blocks of preparedness. First of all, and most important, is spiritual preparedness. I'm not ashamed to admit that I am a born-again, Bible-believing Christian. I know from interviewing and studying what happened in World War II that our American POWs who were incarcerated in POW camps in World War II, our American POWs who had strong spiritual beliefs, were far more likely to survive what went on in these POW camps than those who did not. Eating the same food, having the same medical attention, doing the same work, wearing the same clothes, living in the same buildings. Those who had a strong spiritual foundation were far more likely to survive those conditions. We know that for a fact. It's not my job to tell you what your spiritual beliefs should be. My job is to tell you need to have strong spiritual beliefs, whatever that might be for you. Next comes skills. And there's a lot of skills I'm going to advocate. I'm going to look at my list here so I don't miss any of my list of skills. And I'm going to come back and read you what Dr. Velikovsky wrote about what might happen. The skills of a farmer, a gardener. You will be growing your own food. The skills of a paramedic. Now we get so used to if somebody gets injured, we dial 911, and in a few minutes there's a wonderful shiny ambulance with these highly trained technicians that got all the stuff they need to save life. In a future where things no longer work like we're used to, you're going to be your own paramedic, or you're going to sit there and watch your loved one bleed to death from a chainsaw accident or whatever it might be. An EMT course is one semester at your local junior college, maybe $100, $200, and you'll know more about emergency